Is there really a magic number of sets you should do for each muscle group? Do you remember that time when you decided to increase the volume in your leg workout, thinking that more sets would mean massive thighs in no time? That's exactly what I did. I sat on the leg extension machine, and before I knew it, I was on my fourth extra set beyond what I had planned. I left the gym barely able to bend my knee, and surprisingly, days later, I realized I didn't get the spectacular results I had imagined. The excess volume left me exhausted and sore, but without gains proportional to my effort. This personal experience illustrates a question many people have. How much training volume is enough for hypertrophy? Science has been revealing that there is a sweet spot in the number of sets we do. Going beyond this threshold can bring fewer and fewer benefits, eventually leading to stagnation or even harming our progress. Reference study. A recent study analyzed the impact of different training volumes, specifically on the calves of women with little gym experience. 3 groups trained with 6, 9, and 12 weekly sets, respectively. Those who did 6 sets showed positive but relatively modest results. Those who trained with 9 sets experienced greater hypertrophy than the 6-set group, showing that increasing the number of sets does help. Finally, those who did 12 sets saw significant growth compared to the 6-set group. But the difference from 9 sets wasn't that dramatic. This finding suggests diminishing returns as training volume increases. In other words, the jump from 6 to 9 sets brings a considerable gain, but from 9 to 12, the growth curve still rises, just not as steeply. This makes it clear that there comes a point where adding more and more sets won't bring proportional results compared to the time invested and the stress it puts on your body. How you can apply this. Number 1. Increase gradually. If you're doing 6 sets for a particular muscle group and feel stuck, try increasing to 8 or 10 and monitor your progress. Use the phone you bring to the gym for music to also track your progress, weights, reps, and effort level to see if it's paying off. 2. Prioritize recovery. More volume requires more rest time, better sleep, and solid nutrition. If you start feeling constant soreness, low energy, or trouble sleeping, it might be a sign you've overdone it. 3. Training cycle. An advanced strategy is to vary your volume over the weeks. For example, in a 4-week block, you could go from 8 sets to 10, then 12, and finally drop back to 8, giving your body a chance to recover. 4. Evaluate training quality. Doing 12 half-hearted sets might be less effective than 9 intense, well-executed ones. Focus on perfect execution, a strong mind-muscle connection, and progressive overload. Understanding this sweet spot in volume is the first step to achieving real results without turning into a gym marathoner. But volume isn't everything. How you perform each rep and how deeply you stretch the muscle can be crucial for maximizing gains. You've probably seen that guy at your gym who loads up the squat bar, making you think, damn, is he really going for that? But when he squats, his range of motion is ridiculously short, clearly more about showing off than actually stimulating the muscle. The truth is, if that same guy reduced the weight and did a full range of motion, he'd probably wake up the next day with intense muscle soreness, but also a real sense of muscle activation and strength gain. Which brings us to another very important topic. Why does full stretching help? When it comes to strength training, most people focus on how many reps or sets they're doing with a certain weight. But there's one often overlooked factor: range of motion. Here's why it matters. Number 1. Tension throughout the full range of motion. In exercises that require greater muscle stretching, you engage fibers that often don't get much work when performing only partial reps. The increased muscle length during movement leads to more microtears, essential for hypertrophy. Number 2. Greater neuromuscular activation. Studies show that increasing exercise range of motion forces the nervous system to recruit more motor units to stabilize and generate force throughout the movement. For example, in the lowest phase of a deep squat, your glutes, quads, and even core muscles must engage more to maintain posture. Number 3. Exposure to weak points. Performing movements through a full range exposes muscular weaknesses and imbalances that remain hidden in half reps. If you notice that going lower causes you to lose trunk stability or feel knee pain, it might indicate that you need to strengthen supporting muscles or adjust your technique. How to safely apply a full range of motion. If you're not used to training with a full range of motion, Here are some tips to keep you from getting stuck under a bench press bar or folding like an accordion on the leg press. Respect your limitations. Transitioning to deeper movements should be gradual. If you're not used to it, start by reducing the weight and slowly increasing depth over time. Warm up your joints properly, whether it's knees, ankles, or hips, before performing exercises that demand a greater range of motion. Address instability, mobility issues, or pain. If you feel any of these, it's worth investing time in mobility exercises and strengthening stabilizing muscles like the core, glutes, and lower back. Maintain proper posture and avoid cheating during the descent and ascent. Otherwise, you risk stressing your joints instead of targeting the muscle effectively. After consistently training with a full range of motion, you can expect more uniform hypertrophy, avoiding development only in the middle portion of the muscle, as well as an improved ability to generate force from different joint angles. But movement length is just one crucial factor for hypertrophy. During one of my first sessions with a personal trainer, I heard a phrase I never forgot. Don't let gravity do more work than you. I used to let the weight drop quickly on the way down, only focusing on pushing it back up during the concentric phase. From that day on, I learned the power of the eccentric phase, where the muscle lengthens while still resisting the load. The difference in muscle recruitment was so noticeable that after a few weeks, both my results and my soreness, in the best way possible, were never the same again. Why is the eccentric phase so talked about? Number 1. Greater force generation potential. During the eccentric phase, our muscles can handle more weight than in the concentric phase. This happens because the muscle structure and nervous system are better at controlling a lowering load than overcoming it on the way up. Number 2. Microtears and hypertrophy. When a muscle stretches under tension, it creates microtears in the muscle fibers, which later repair and grow. This eccentric stimulus is a powerful trigger for adaptation. Number 3. Constant tension. Lowering the weight in a controlled manner ensures that muscle fibers stay under tension longer, a key principle for gaining mass and strength. Research on ideal duration. Super slow reps. Worth it? Some fitness enthusiasts believe that lowering the weight over 6 to 8 seconds would lead to extra gains. However, recent studies suggest that excessively prolonging the eccentric phase does not proportionally increase hypertrophy. On top of that, it can cause premature fatigue, compromising the quality of the following reps, and even forcing you to significantly reduce the total load. What's the optimal lowering time? Most research indicates that keeping the eccentric phase between 2 and 3 seconds is enough to maximize benefits without causing unnecessary wear. This range is long enough to create continuous muscle tension, but not so slow that it negatively impacts overall performance in the set. Practical applications and execution tips. Number 1. Control, but don't drag it out. If you lower the weight so slowly that you can barely complete your planned reps, you might be overdoing it. The goal is to keep a smooth cadence, feeling the muscle under control, but without turning the movement into an eternity. Number 2. Coordinated breathing. To maintain control during the eccentric phase, establish a breathing rhythm. Inhale on the way down, exhale on the way up. This improves oxygenation and trunk stability. In exercises like the bench press, for example, conscious and synchronized breathing prevents sudden drops in tension and enhances shoulder stability. Number 3. Posture awareness. In exercises like squats or overhead presses, keep your spine neutral and core engaged. During the eccentric phase, it's easy to relax, but that can lead to injuries in areas like the lower back or shoulders. Eccentric control also helps educate your posture, making you more aware of each phase of the movement. Number 4. Eccentric periodization. Some training programs incorporate eccentric overload cycles, alternating weeks, focused on the eccentric phase with traditional execution. This can help prevent stagnation. However, proper planning is essential to allow adequate recovery, as the stress from the eccentric phase tends to be high. If you've never focused on the eccentric phase before, don't start by using the same weight you lift with faster reps. The demand on tendons and ligaments will be greater. Adapt gradually. Progressing steadily is far better than getting injured and having to stop altogether. But does all this attention to detail mean spending even more time in the gym? There was a time when my schedule was so crazy that I barely had 40 minutes to train. While many friends told me I couldn't make progress in bodybuilding with such little time, I decided to test a strategy I had read about on fitness blogs: supersets. On my first attempt, I paired biceps and triceps, and gasping for breath but excited, I realized I could maintain or even improve my results even with less time in the gym. What are supersets? Supersets involve performing 2 exercises back-to-back without rest in between. Traditionally, there are 2 main approaches: antagonistic supersets, alternating exercises for opposing muscle groups, such as chest and back, biceps and triceps, or quads and hamstrings. While one muscle group works, the other actively rests, saving time and keeping the pace high. Same muscle group supersets. Here, you combine 2 different exercises targeting the same muscle, like bench press and dumbbell flies for the chest. This method is highly intense and creates a strong burning sensation in the muscle, but tends to be more exhausting. Proven benefits. Number 1. Time efficiency. Studies suggest that smart use of supersets can cut total workout time by up to 36% without compromising hypertrophy or strength. Instead of standing around between sets, you're training another muscle group, making every second count. Number 2. Increased caloric burn. Moving quickly from one exercise to another raises heart rate, potentially increasing the total calorie burn per session. For those looking to improve body composition, this is a nice bonus. Number 3. Higher intensity and focus. Jumping straight into the next exercise keeps you locked in, reducing distractions. You're less likely to waste time checking your phone or chatting. The elevated intensity also triggers a metabolic response that can support hypertrophy as long as recovery is managed properly. Tips and precautions when using supersets. Number 1. Adjust the load realistically. It's common to struggle to lift the same weight in the second part of a superset, especially when targeting the same muscle group. Plan ahead to avoid breaking your flow by having to swap too many plates or dumbbells mid-workout. Number 2. Be careful with heavy exercises. Pairing 2 intense compound movements, like squats plus deadlifts, can cause excessive fatigue and increase injury risk, especially if you're a beginner or not used to high-intensity training. Number 3. Experiment with exercise order. Sometimes, simply switching the order of exercises in a superset can reduce fatigue or make the workout more effective. Try different variations to see what best fits your routine and fitness level. Supersets can save time and amplify muscle stimulation, but how do you manage the intense fatigue, dizziness, or even nausea that can come from cutting rest time so much? When I first started doing supersets, my biggest challenge wasn't muscle fatigue itself, it was that heart in my throat feeling that hit right after. I remember one session where I combined squats with a back exercise. Halfway through the workout, a sudden heat wave hit me, followed by slight nausea and dizziness. I thought about stopping, but I followed a simple piece of advice. I took deep breaths, took a short break, hydrated, and kept going. Over time, my body adapted, and after a few weeks, I no longer felt that discomfort. Why do fatigue and nausea increase during supersets? Number 1. Increased cardiovascular demand. In a superset, you don't rest between 2 exercises, which causes your heart rate to spike quickly. Your circulatory system has to distribute oxygen both to the active muscles and to remove accumulating metabolic waste. This cardiovascular overload can lead to shortness of breath, dizziness, and even momentary nausea. Number 2. Rapid lactate accumulation. Every time you stack one exercise immediately after another, your muscles keep working without the usual recovery period. This means that lactate and other byproducts of anaerobic metabolism build up more quickly, causing that burning sensation and sometimes even discomfort. If your body doesn't have enough time to clear these waste products, fatigue and uneasiness intensify. How to handle this fatigue? Number 1. Warm up and mobility before starting. A complete warm-up, including both joint mobility and light cardio, such as treadmill, elliptical, or bike for 5 to 10 minutes, helps prepare your body for the intensity of supersets. Number 2. Control your execution pace. Don't mistake supersets for reckless speed. Maintain proper form in every rep. If you notice your quality dropping, slow down slightly or reduce the weight to avoid sloppy movements and unnecessary strain. Number 3. Strategic rest periods. While the essence of a superset is no rest between the two exercises, you can implement brief pauses after each superset. Try resting 60 to 90 seconds after completing both movements instead of just 30 seconds or skipping rest entirely. This allows you to catch your breath and stabilize your heart rate. How to minimize nausea during workouts. Number 1. Pre-workout nutrition. Eating a light, balanced meal 1 to 2 hours before training can prevent nausea caused by an empty or overly full stomach. Pair complex carbs like oatmeal or sweet potatoes with lean proteins like chicken, fish, or eggs in moderate amounts to avoid digestive overload. Number 2. Consistent hydration. Dehydration worsens dizziness and nausea because it reduces the blood volume available for circulation. Sip water throughout your workout. A few gulps between sets usually do the trick. If your session is long or the temperature is high, an electrolyte drink might be beneficial. That's why we always say, you don't need an endless workout to get real results. The key is to train smart, respect your fitness level, and use strategies that blend science and practicality. If you apply these concepts, get ready to see your muscles and strength grow consistently without having to live in the gym. Want to take your results even further? We've got a video on screen right now showing the best exercise for each muscle. Don't miss it. I'm sure it'll help you a lot on your fitness journey. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you, my friend.